Initially, I'll confess that our mission statement was to lead Minot into a growing relationship with Jesus. And back then, there was a little bit of naivety of what God could do. And as the story of the pursuit went on, we realized that there were people commuting outside of Minot itself and coming to our services. In particular, we had a group of people from Stanley who were driving 2 hours to come for a 1-hour church service.
We had been attending the Pursuit in Minot for about 3 years, driving every Sunday. We were involved in ministry. I was on the worship team, so I would drive over for practices and things like that. And we just really felt like there was a core group here in Stanley. There was about 15 to 20 of us that were making that drive every Sunday. And we just felt within us that maybe we needed to pursue having a campus here. Grow Indy was a big part of the pursuit and that vision of growth. And we just felt like, we've got a core group here in Stanley. And we just started really praying about that.
The impact of the pursuit was hitting the surrounding towns. And then you get over to like Stanley, like I said, and you got Gary, he God was, nudging him like, call Tom, and, he did. And, he told you like, what would you guys think about starting a campus over here? Well, to see, you guys to go away at, your executive team and really pray about it and come back and be like, man, I think this is the direction we need to go. So let's do it. And then now we look over in Stanley, and just here on August 27th, we celebrated the grand opening of our newly renovated building over there. And so I just look at the pursuit and man, it just blows me away. It just like God's provision and how we're trying to just reach North Dakota, right? We're trying to reach all these rural communities and these places that maybe don't have the chance to experience a church like the Pursuit. And now you look at it and it's just, I feel like God's just getting started with us. Man, we got 2 solid campuses going, and I feel like, the future's bright for this church, and we're just going to keep impacting and changing lives for Jesus.
God's plans are always bigger than ours. We can have these visions and goals of what we think we want, but we think in earthly limitations, and God works in, supernatural. And so those limits are just out the window with him, and there's nothing that holds him back. And I think that by thinking bigger and thinking broader, we realize, that there are people that need Jesus. There's always churches and communities, but there's always room for more because if every seat in every church was filled, there would still be people in the community that need Jesus. And to be able to step into those communities and offer them a way to connect with people and a way to connect with God is so important. And to be able to, as a church, to spread that out, spread the gospel, spread the good news, that's what we're called to do. That's that Great Commission.
When we went mobile, we had created a position called the operations manager, which was the fancy name for the guy in charge of setup and teardown. And I applied for it, and I remember in that interview, I think I was Paul Harrison and Nick, and they asked me, well, what are you looking to get out of this? And I said, I feel like God's calling me into ministry, but I don't know what it looks like. And I'm like, if I got to start here, I'm happy with that, just to be a part of it. I never would have thought in a million years that that this would have been my road, my path. I mean, I have 2 teaching degrees. I thought I was going to be a teacher in a school, and I got in with the truck stop, and I probably would have kept working there if I wouldn't have gotten plugged in with the church. And then all of a sudden, God had different plans for me and led me down that huge, the road. And it just always blows me away when I look back at my life and, how much God's had his hand on every single step of the way. Sometimes you're like, how in the world did I get to this place? Well, you look back and you're just like, here's God, guiding you through it all.
And so when we think about a greater vision that God has for us individually, but also collectively as the local church, what it takes is just dreaming, praying, and just thinking of a different reality that no one has experienced yet. And when you have moments to step into being a part of that, it'll forever change your life. It'll change your faith. It'll grow your faith. But to see God work in ways that you haven't even experienced yet, I don't think there's any greater thing that any of us could be a part of than living for something like that. And when I think of a vision of where God wants to go, those are the difference makers that it takes to see that come to reality.
If God asks you to go somewhere, don't question him why. We wondered why we came to North Dakota, and it took 7 years for God to show us why. And it was to help birth Pursuit and Stanley. As I look back on it now, it's like we'd planned on coming here to get out of financial debt because of the oil field, and we planned on being here 6 to 8 months. But God kept us here through all the struggles, and God blessed us and kept us here. And we couldn't understand why. We had no children here. We had no family here. But God used us to get this started. And I love the song 10 Billion Reasons, because it says, if the wind goes where you send it, so will I. And that's what I live by. If God sends us to Stanley, okay, God, I don't know why. And for those of you that are listening out there, God may say, I want you to go some here. Well, why? Pastor Tom came here, Minot, North Dakota. Why? Because God had a vision. You had a vision. And God used you and used Minot to fulfill that vision. And that vision is now spreading throughout North Dakota like wildfire. So I encourage anybody that feels an inkling to go somewhere for no reason at all. Listen to God.
And just amazing to see what God's doing in that community. And it's expanded our vision to maybe there's other communities across our state like Stanley that God wants to do something in them as well. And so can't wait to see what doors God opens into the future, and cannot wait to see what this next 10 years is going to hold for our Stanley location as well.